Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I'm not sleeping, but I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by FanSided's MLB insider Robert Murray, here to talk me through a little bit of a news drop this morning, as well as open the discussion to some potentially underrated young extension candidates. Because during this down week post-deadline, this is a question we get all the time. Hey, where's this extension for this guy? Figured we'd answer a few of those questions, as well as pick out some names that maybe people are not talking about so loudly right now, but we're going to obviously get into the news of the day first after we say hi to one another. Robert Murray, how are you doing, dude?
I'm doing great, man. It's good that we both awoken from our slumbers. I know it was a little bit of a delayed start to the show today, but we're here in one piece. We're doing awesome. We're doing great. We got news to talk about with the Chicago White Sox, and we got some potential candidates for that opening when it opens up in the winter. But pretty loaded notebook once again today. Adam, how you doing? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Feels good to be back on the regular schedule. And the White Sox, again, one win was too many. They decided, all right, well, we got Pedro Grifol, too successful now. We got to get him out of here. If you have questions about Chicago White Sox baseball, which I know you do, any other team, a lot of Padres, Pirates rivalry stuff going on in the Discord this week, please join us there. We would love to answer your questions between shows or just talk ball. Obviously, as we get closer to the end of the season, we're going to get into the playoffs. Robert will be boots on the ground for the postseason. And then the real fun starts when the winter meetings arrive and all that chatter after the year concludes. So please join us in the Discord in the interim. Rumor Mill tier, all-star tier gets you priority responses in the chat, as well as a private stream with us once a month. Got to schedule that in August, but stay tuned. We will be scheduling it over the next couple of weeks in between my trips to Milwaukee, Chicago, Newport, and Utah. So
traveling, man.
Tough schedule, but we're going to get it done. Don't worry, everybody. And that leads right into a discussion of today's news, as well as a Discord question, just a back-to-back the hammer, because we got a question about potential alternatives for the Chicago White Sox. And obviously that question's been pertinent for weeks now, but especially pertinent today because Pedro finally paid the Grifol toll. He was dismissed as manager of the Chicago White Sox. Tough tenure for him. Tough statement by the White Sox social media team too, basically saying, this team didn't match expectations or whatever it was they said. I think expectations were low, and I think a lot was blamed on Pedro here for right or wrong. But hey, this very obvious news that had to happen became official today. What are the White Sox options moving forward? Grady Sizemore is the current manager of the team, which makes you feel pretty old, but it's kind of fun. Is that a stopgap, someone they're considering long-term? What can you tell us about how to sort out this situation for Chicago?
Yeah, let's start with Grifol. The White Sox, they hired him, and he was a highly regarded bench coach previously. And they thought with the young talent that they had, he would end up being able to maximize it more than what Tony La Russa did. And obviously they bottomed out. They've traded a lot of their young players that they once viewed as their long-term core, and they're giving it another shot at rebuilding. And they obviously had a very historic 21-game losing streak. And as soon as they win, they let them go, which, I mean, that kind of, I don't know exactly what to make of that, but the timing of that was a little weird. But also I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did, because it just felt like, for lack of a better phrase, that he was a dead man walking in Chicago. Like, it felt like it was only a matter of time before they moved on from him. And now that they've moved on from Grifol, they have the first managerial opening in baseball now. And it's not going – I don't think this is going to be a highly sought-after job. Obviously, there's only 30 of these in baseball, but the fact that they're so far away from, like, serious contention, and they're probably going to trade at least one of Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert in the offseason, this is going to be a very difficult job. So I'm curious to see exactly the kind of candidates that they attract. But it was a move that had to happen. They did it. Now they got Grady Sizemore, who I actually thought before they ended up firing Grifol that he could be like a sneaky mystery candidate or like an under-the-radar candidate for the full-time job. He's the interim guy, but the White Sox made it clear today that they want to hire somebody from the outside. So that seems to rule out Sizemore unless they go on a huge run here in the last however many games of the season, which with that roster probably unlikely, considering they're like 61 games under 500.
I tell you, I don't see it happening, but you never know.
Yeah, stranger things have happened, but I am not getting my hopes up.
Yeah,
but yeah, like as far as, should I just dive into the potential candidates already?
Yeah, let's dive right into that because Alex Rude in the Discord asked, hey, any names besides Skip Schumacher that the White Sox could potentially hire? Obviously, that's going to be a very pertinent one with everybody sort of we thought we knew that Alex Cora might be a managerial free agent. We were wrong about that, but Skip is really the top tier of, all right, we know this guy's leaving Miami. So that name's going to get bandied about, but anything else you're able to add to that conversation and share?
Yeah, and with this job, as I mentioned before, it's the fact that they're so far away from contending, and I don't know exactly what the thought of Jerry Reinsdorf is around the league, but the situation is not really a good one at all, and it's gonna be a big rebuild. So I'm curious to see exactly the kind of candidate that they can attract, or if they're even able to get a manager like of Skip Schumacher's of his caliber, because he's one of the best managers in baseball, and it'll be highly coveted when he eventually leaves the Marlins in the offseason. It's not officially done, but like when you remove the club option for 2025 before the season even starts, it seems like a pretty good indication that you're not going to be back. So I'm curious to see, despite the reports of him being a strong candidate, I'm kind of in wait and see mode on that. And if he'll ultimately take it, I think a guy like John Gibbons could make a lot of sense. He's got previous ties to Chris Getz. And I mean, he wants to be a manager again, from what I can tell. So that, I think that would make a lot of sense if they want a veteran guy. But one thing I would also really caution here with Jerry Reinsdorf is he is a guy who does things unconventionally. I mean, remember when he hired Tony La Russa and he had Bruce Bochy staring him right in the face, and he ended up going in a different direction. And he had another strong managerial candidate too. Looking at it, like I couldn't believe it when
they left AJ Hinch's name on the hiring tweet graphic. It was like, excited to be your manager, and it had an AJ Hinch signature in the corner, and they forgot to edit that out.
I've totally forgot about that. But AJ Hinch was the guy I was thinking of. So it's like, when you think Jerry Reinsdorf will do one thing, he'll zig and do another thing. So it's just, I'm really curious to see exactly how this one plays out. But with Reinsdorf, as I like to say with Artie Moreno, people are well aware of like what I say about Artie. Reinsdorf, expect the unexpected. So we'll see.
Be in Chicago next week. Have plans to go to Brewers, Dodgers, and Cubs, Blue Jays on the Friday. And completely ignored that the White Sox were in town. And I was like, oh, man, I totally forgot. Who are they playing? The Yankees on Wednesday night. I didn't even think about it. Literally did not even think about it. So do I have the fortitude to do 3 different stadiums in 3 days? Or would I rather just eat a burger at Ocheval? That has yet to be determined. But that's where the White Sox are on my priority list right now. Didn't check that they were home. Didn't notice that they were playing my baseball team. So tough stuff.
Fake Yankees fan. Terrible. Yeah. I mean, you're even wearing a Yankees shirt right now, too. And you call yourself a fan. You should be sick.
Well, I'll be at the ballpark in a little bit to see if Artie Moreno woke up on the right side of the bed today or not, which leads us right into our conversation on potential young MLB star extension candidates. The Grady Sizemore thing with the White Sox is funny to me, too, just because it doesn't it feel like major league teams now are just sort of in a competition to nail that guy from the late 2000s, early 2010s. Like Stephen Vogt, that was the that guy. Skip Schumacher, that was the that guy. A lot of like somewhat notable players from 15 years ago are now just like getting managerial flyers. That Rocco Baldelli, that was the right one. But Aaron Boone, not sure. Like sometimes people are just tossing like somewhat familiar. We're in the naming a somewhat familiar guy manager stage of finding Major League Baseball's next leaders. And I'm for it, but it is kind of funny. Like Gabe Kapler, what bucket does he fall in? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like he's got a unique, I don't know exactly how to describe his managerial tenures in Philadelphia and San Francisco, but probably not the best, except for his 1 year where I think they finished with 106, 107 wins in San Francisco, which that doesn't suck. But it's also another thing I would watch for too in the next, maybe not this year, but in the coming years at least, is potential former catchers becoming managerial options. Like Obviously, AJ Pierzynski has already been mentioned in rumors regarding the White Sox. He kind of threw cold water on those when he was on foul territory. But even another guy like Eric Kratz, I was around him in Milwaukee, and I can honestly say I don't remember being around anyone smarter or more savvy than him. I was also around Stephen Vogt. Obviously now the manager of the Guardians. So, I mean, he's got his thing there, and he's doing really well. Another one, again, this is definitely for when he retires, and it may not be for a little bit yet, but a sneaky under the radar guy might be Tucker Barnhart. I think he can end up being a really unique and like under the radar option. So we'll see. He's now with the Reds, so we'll see exactly how that goes. But he might be a name to watch.
That's what makes like the Pat Murphy hire so funny, because everybody else is out here in an arms race to like, ooh, which member of the 2008 All-Star team should we hire as manager? Dan Uggla, Rich Harden, and the Brewers are like, nope, old man.
No, I swear, as soon as Counsell was informed the Brewers that that he was going to the Cubs, there was people in baseball who thought Stephen Vogt would be a really strong candidate in Milwaukee. I remember when I was on the Brewers beat, I had people tell me in and around that team that Vogt was going to be the guy who eventually replaces Counsell. But after Counsell left, they were pretty heavily convinced that it was going to end up being Pat Murphy. Like, he was their top guy. He was not the obvious choice for people on the outside. Like, I mean, he's interviewed for other jobs. He was in the interim in San Diego. He interviewed 3 times for the Mets job a few years ago, got passed over. But he's been awesome, and he's done a masterful job. And what they just did to the Atlanta Braves in Atlanta, yeah, they're a team when they got things going. I don't think there's any team in baseball that wants to play them. They're tough. They're real tough.
Yeah, they just made the Braves look like the 2024 White Sox. And I mean, look, I'm excited to see them in person too. I've never been to Milwaukee. Made sure to make that a part of my trip next week. Got the Miller Brewery tour at 10:30, right into Brewers Dodgers. I don't know if you could ask for a better day. People have told me to go get Coors too, so I'm going to do that.
Do a Broken Bat Brewery, by the way. It's another good one.
I'm going to do that too. Whole day. Can't wait. Mapped out. Well, one team, the Brewers are a team that likes to extend young players. Obviously, Jackson Holliday paying off already. So I wanted to focus on a few potential extension conundrums that we're going to have to deal with, or at least answer questions about in the coming months as we get into the part of the season that's most would just call it the stretch run of the of the MLB regular season, but Baseball Insider's heads will certainly call it in-season extension season. People asking about Jackson Merrill, obviously tied the game last night, spurred a big Padres win at PNC. Paul Skenes is going to get all these until we have Paul Skenes' name on the dotted line. People are going to be speculating about his future. That's just how it is. The rookies of the year, the rookie of the year candidates get their shine. But I want to take a note of a few other players who don't necessarily get that attention, and maybe their team should take advantage of that lack of spotlight. I wanted to bring up Zach Neto, because not just because he had a fantastic doubleheader at Yankee Stadium yesterday, 2-run homer in the first game to get the Angels on the board, grand slam in the second, drove in 6 runs. He and Anthony Volpe are fairly comparable. And right now, Volpe had a big sag midseason, puffing up his numbers a little bit, hitting for more power after the break. But he's at 3.4 B-WAR, Neto at 3.5, and he does not really get the public shine. So kind of feels like an opportunity. If the Angels wanted to steal some headlines, they could maybe go talk extension with Neto, especially because they're into calling these guys up early. That gives them a chance to reward them early. So maybe Neto first, and then call up Christian Moore next week, and then extend him by September 1st.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to start with the Angels because this is the first thing that you mentioned here. I think the possibility of a Zach Neto extension makes sense. But if I was the Angels, I'd be more aggressive in trying to extend a guy like Logan O'Hoppe, because I think he just looks like he's going to be one of the best catchers in baseball before too long. And they made it clear, like they do not want to move him. I think there was teams that were interested in him at the deadline, but they view him as a huge part of their future. And I can absolutely see Perry and Artie Moreno wanting to be really aggressive there and trying to extend him in the offseason. That's just my own speculation, not sourced or anything, but he does come from the Alex Anthopoulos background in Atlanta, so it would not surprise me if Perry tried to do that here in Anaheim, if he is in fact the general manager next year. I mean, I don't know if that's a sure thing, but I think they should keep Perry. I think he's a good baseball executive. So that's at least what I'm thinking. So, and also Neto would make sense. But going back to the Pirates, so how we started, how we started this part of the segment here. I'm kind of in wait and see mode on if a guy like Paul Skenes would want to sign an extension now and then possibly subtract 1 or 2 years of free agency. I'm in wait and see mode. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But when he eventually is going to become a free agent, he is going to get absolutely paid if he stays healthy. We're a long ways away from that, so we can't get too ahead of ourselves. But I can't imagine he'll be in a hurry to potentially delay that. So kind of a wait and see mode. I think a guy like Jared Jones would make sense as a candidate for an extension in Pittsburgh as well. Obviously, well, not obvious. I don't know how many people know this, but Jared Jones is represented by the same agency as Brian Reynolds. I don't think they share the exact same agent, but there's obvious history in getting deals done there. And I can imagine the Pirates will want to try to get both of those signed long term, but I think it could be tough, especially with a guy like Paul Skenes.
Well, Jared Jones, a good shout. I mean, aren't the Pirates and Orioles probably both glad at this point that they didn't trade Jared Jones for Jackson Holliday, given how Holliday is popping off in Baltimore?
Dude, I'm gonna get myself in trouble here, but the guy, like, there was absolutely no merit to that Jared Jones for Jackson Holliday report. I'm not trying to poke the bear with who reported it, but that info was 100% false, despite him saying otherwise in my Twitter mentions. Dijon, you know who you are. That was absolutely false.
Yeah, he poked the bear a little bit himself, so why not? Yeah. We're going to get this clipped like MLB Scoops, but it is what it is. Regardless, bright future in Pittsburgh. And Jackson Holliday, 9 for 24, 4 bombs and a double since being promoted again, so safe to assume he's probably safe in Baltimore. Though the Orioles are not the most interesting AL East extension candidate, in my opinion. That, for me, is the Red Sox outfield conundrum, partially because they already did extend Ceddanne Rafaela, who is a spectacular defender in center, great player, put himself on the Rookie of the Year map, playing a little shortstop, but won't be doing that long-term if Marcelo Meyer pans out, which it seems like he's on the road to doing. So you got your center fielder. You've also got Jarren Duran, who was an all-star this year and is top 10 in WAR. Wilyer Abreu has been probably the best offensive rookie in baseball in the Red Sox outfield. And Roman Anthony is still coming. And Masataka Yoshida has been helping to carry this Red Sox offense lately. Yoshida DH, Abreu, Rafael, Duran, Anthony in the future. That's a lot of bodies. So is Abreu an extension candidate? What about Duran? I mean, how do you sort all this out if you're Boston when you have all these young players who probably merit the conversation about being locked up, but you've already locked up Rafaela, so you've taken a chip away from yourself here?
No, you have if you're the Red Sox, but this is a good problem for them to have. And it took selling off some pretty significant pieces and going through some hard times to get to this point, but they have a really good foundation of young talent, and trying to navigate this in the offseason is going to be probably the biggest thing for Craig Breslow to navigate in that front office. But it ultimately will come down to whether or not Red Sox ownership will give the necessary funds to get these guys signed long-term while also still having financial flexibility to add players through free agency. Obviously they have done that with getting Alex Cora signed. They did it with Rafaela's extension. They added at the deadline, so good for them. So there's signs that there's positive momentum as far as the Red Sox being willing to at least pony up for certain players. But still, I'm still skeptical. I hope they end up keeping a good amount of these guys, or at least all of them, because I think that'd be a really good thing for the Red Sox and just Boston as a whole. That being said, I remember after Duran ended up winning the All-Star Game MVP, I checked and I was like, hey, is there been any thoughts about an extension there? And I was told there had been, to that point, no talks. So not even a conversation. So I don't think anything has changed since then. The extensions are more of an off-season thing than in-season thing, but I think the Red Sox would be wise to do that because There's other teams that liked Duran. There was other teams that asked about Duran in the offseason. The Padres were one of them, as we reported on this show. So I can't imagine there's going to be any. I don't think the Red Sox will be trying to trade Duran, but extending it would make sense.
Yeah, that's a Baseball Insiders classic, too. If you've been here since the offseason, we were talking Duran, San Diego, Kenley, San Diego, etc. And the Red Sox probably happy they held on to all these folks the other day. Shout out Kenley the other day, breathing fire on a 4-out save in a 1-run game, sending Bobby Witt Jr. to the showers in the what ended up being the rubber match, technically, of that Royal series. That was a great series.
Yeah. Also, speaking of throwing fire, by the way, I got to give a shout out to Aroldis Chapman, throwing 105.1.
Jeez, come on now.
In year 15. Crazy.
He was down to 97.5 average velocity on that fastball in his final year with the Yankees, because I checked. Because I was like, he didn't, come on. I remembered him regressing velocity-wise a little bit, but I was like, he must have been down to 99.6, 100.2. No, all the way down to the mid-97s. And somebody got him right last year. He was hitting 103 in KC, and then 105.1 is, I don't know if Aroldis Chapman does drive line, but it would seem like maybe something's working.
Yeah, because the look on Manny Machado's face said it all. That was absolutely just wild.
Yeah. And then, look, there go the Padres winning that game anyway. But the classic candidate here, because we just have to mention it, because I think we even mentioned this on a previous show. But while the Atlanta Braves struggle, Spencer Schwellenbach certainly is not struggling. If there's one team that's associated with these early surprising extensions that usually come in a tweet drop with a prepared graphic, not with AJ Hinch's signature, that's only the White Sox. But the Braves are tops at doing this. And I know you are certainly, we're not alone in thinking okay, maybe the Braves are going to get something done here with Schwellenbach at some point.
Yeah, because this, I think we've said it on a previous show, and we'll say it again. This feels like a classic case of a Braves press release just randomly dropping out of the blue. Because, the Braves, they have long-term questions in that rotation, especially with Max Fried being a free agent at the end of the year, and it looking pretty likely that he's going to be going elsewhere. And signing a guy like Schwellenbach, who is one of their top pitching prospects, who looks really, really good in the majors. I think getting ahead of that and getting him to a team-friendly deal that will also benefit the Braves Foundation would be a really good thing for Atlanta. Would not surprise me if they explore that. To my knowledge, at least as of a couple of weeks ago, I believe, I don't think there had been any talks. But that feels like a classic case of Anthopoulos doing his thing behind the scenes, being aggressive, trying to get the deal done. We'll see, but that is one that I am definitely watching. And speaking of ones that I'm watching, Andrew Lee, I see you up there asking about a Jackson Merrill extension. That is nothing's cooking there. I can confidently say that, but that is something that I think the Padres would be very wise to explore in the offseason, because the price, if they would have done it in the offseason this past year, or even right around opening day, it would have been a lot cheaper than it is now. Because with each day, with how well he's playing, his price is only going up. So the Padres would be very wise to get ahead of that before. Well, and they should have done it before, but they should try to get it done ASAP. But as of this point, nothing's cooking.
I see Wells and Volpe being asked about as well. Last September, I was the one banging the drum saying hey, why not just extend Jason Dominguez now? Obviously, the answer was he had Tommy John surgery. We're still waiting to see him back in Major League Baseball. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Yankees aren't dipping their feet into this pool enough. Maybe they should extend Austin Wells. It solves a significant issue moving forward, and he can play first base if he has to. But it feels like they're probably not going to turn their money that way.
No, my guess is probably not, but we'll see. But I have not heard any buzz about either of those guys getting extensions. So it doesn't mean it's not happening, but that is something that I have not heard as of this point.
Any other names that we should maybe keep an eye out for that I just, it doesn't have to be underrated, just one of MLB's young stars, anybody that maybe we should have an extension on our radar?
I think a guy in Washington, a guy like CJ Abrams would make a lot of sense. He is a guy that was part of the headline in return for Juan Soto, and he looks every bit of a really good long-term asset there in Washington. I think they'd be really smart to extend a guy like that. Maybe tough to do that in season, but maybe an off-season kind of thing would make a lot of sense for Washington. I think that's going to be one to potentially watch over the next few months here.
Yeah, and he rules, so that would be a wise move to lock him up, I would say.
Yeah.
Before we sign off, just saw a report floating around yesterday about the Cardinals and Paul Goldschmidt that made me want to focus a small segment here at the end on potential realities there. I saw that the hope, in quotes, is that they retain him beyond this year. Not a multi-year contract player at this point, certainly a lot of regression this year, but crucial to that Cardinals locker room. An outsider like me might say, what locker room? What have they won? But if I'm being nice, obviously a veteran leader, Hall of Fame type player. And that sort of we hope to retain feels like maybe that's 1 year contract after 1 year contract until retirement. So question on Goldschmidt, but also side note, is it going to be John Mozeliak giving out that money, or is it going to be Chaim Bloom?
My guess is at least until Mozeliak's contract is up. I don't know exactly when it's up, but my guess is it's Mozeliak until his contract is up, and then it could be a guy like Chaim Bloom taking over. Because when they hired Chaim Bloom and put him in that front office, it kind of felt like he was going to end up being the leader in waiting, and at least until Mozeliak was done. So that's going to be my guess as of right now. But as far as Paul Goldschmidt goes, he's 36. He's still a productive player, don't get me wrong, but his numbers have decreased quite a bit over the last couple of years, and giving him a multi-year deal seems like it would be really risky business. And I can't imagine that's going to be something that the Cardinals or any other team is really in a hurry to do, because he just seems like a guy who is starting to be on the decline. I think that's kind of a nice way of putting that. So I think he's going to probably end up having to get a 1 year contract in free agency, whether it's from the Cardinals or whether it's another team. I think the Cardinals would like to have him back, but they got to be realistic about the player that he is now, and also not really handcuff themselves with other potential roster moves as well. So I think that's at least where things stand right now.
It's a funny one. I would have said, I said it in the intro, like that's a Hall of Famer. I would still say I believe him to be a Hall of Famer, but it's not as cut and dried as I would have expected. If the peak is over and the final decline years are not going to look, not going to approximate what he's done in the past. Yeah. Hall of Fame monitor has him as a likely Hall of Famer. That's 100 on the monitor. He's at a 109. Hall of Fame standards, below the mark of an average Hall of Famer. 17th first baseman all time in JAWS. Offensively, similarity score, ranking up there with Lance Berkman, Dick Allen, and Mark Teixeira, otherwise known as the Snub Bunch. I don't know. I still think he's a Hall of Famer. He's an annual All-Star. That's a hell of a 12, 13-year peak, but closer than I would have expected.
Yeah, I agree. And I wonder if he does go into the Hall of Fame, does he go in as a Diamondback or does he go in as a Cardinal? I don't know. Something. Yeah. Asking the tough questions over here, but yeah. That's what the baseball insiders do.
We're going to be doing a whole 15-part series on Goldschmidt's Hall of Fame candidacy as the season goes on, but I appreciate everybody sticking around for the preview there. That's it for today's show. We will be back at you next Monday, 3:30 Eastern, like always, and then stay tuned next Wednesday, because like I said, I'm going to be traveling a little bit. We're doing some reorg. Turn your notifications on. We'll be live 3:30 Wednesday, hopefully with a good amount of stuff to catch up on. And then holler at me if you see me at the Brewers game or in the Wrigley bleachers. Would love to hang out with anybody if you're a Discord member or not. But if you'd like to join the Discord, hit the join button on desktop below this video. Sign up for either the Rumor Mill tier or the All-Star tier. Would love to see you and keep asking your questions. We love it. Robert Murray, thank you as always for helping me through this show, for waking me up, making sure I am not sleeping on the air. We both made it. We both made it to the beginning and the end.
No, we made it. I'm glad you didn't fall asleep during the show. I'm glad I didn't fall asleep during the show either. I did not see Jacob Zanola or Canyon in here, so I assume they're sound asleep. But we appreciate everyone who tuned in to watch this show. Good episode, good show again. See everyone back here on Monday. Be safe over the weekend. I will be in Atlanta for a Zach Bryan concert. So if you're there on Saturday, give me a shout because your boy will be in attendance. And we'll see everyone after I get back. And where are you going to be on Monday, Adam?
I'll be in my normal spot on Monday, flying out to Chicago early Wednesday morning. So I'll be doing Wednesday's show from a Chicago hotel room. But that's what we call the Robert Murray Classic, the old hotel live stream.
No, for sure. Wait, Thursday's show, unless I'm mistaken.
No, I think I'm moving Thursday. I'll be in Milwaukee. I think we're gonna move it.
There we go. News is being broken to be a live show. This is what it feels
maybe
like.
Maybe we'll have to move it around again. But either way,
MLB deadline news. Where are you to aggregate that one?
Yeah, breaking. Come on, guys.
Yeah, my goodness gracious. But we appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we'll see everyone back here on Monday and Wednesday.
Yes, see you right back here, Monday. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.